Bonjour, bonjour. I believe that is the French for oi oi. And hello and welcome to another GG.CO.UK trends video. I can remember calling this Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe video 12 months ago, where we saw blue stocking supplemented and landing the spoils over in France. Now, this time round, I'm going to run through the top line trends that I think it takes to win an arc. Hopefully we can profile the winner there. We've got 11 confirmations that have come out this afternoon. There is still the supplementary stage where Mini Hawk needs to be thrown in, but the same as blue stocking last year, who was supplemented to victory. Maybe Mini Hawk will be that horse again. I'm going to look at the runners we've got in the field based off of the trends that I will talk about in this video. I'll do that for a few of the horses in there, but there'll be a link in the description for you to read the full Arc de Triomphe trends article. Top line trends I'll talk about in the video, but I put some depth and detail behind them in the written piece on GG.CO.UK's website. This showpiece comes up this weekend as well. There's been some real good action at the end of September. We're moving into October now. Jump season's round the corner, but Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe is one of the biggest races in the world. The richest race in Europe, £2.5 million to the winner. It's a race that is well worth winning. So with all that said, let's have a little look at the trends, and I'll talk about some of the horses that are in contention this year. I'll actually do that off the bat, to be fair. We'll reel off some bits of prices that could be available for some of these horses. Now, I'm kind of paraphrasing after we've had the confirmations come in. A few markets are still set to set up there, but we'll talk about some of the horses in price order as it stands. So Aventure, who was second in the race last year, heads the market 4-1-ish. Mini Hawk, the horse I've talked about, Aidan O'Brien's, who needs to be supplemented. The 3-year-old looking phenomenal, better and better each time she runs as far as I'm concerned. Also at 4-1. Croix de Nord is 8-1 for Japan. Byzantine Dream 9-1 for Japan. They look to have a very strong hand this year, a race where they've come second on a few occasions. They would like to get the winner of it. They've got two big chances, I think, after a couple of recent Longchamp Trials weekend wins. Sozy in there at 9-1, beaten last time out by Byzantine Dream. A very good horse, lots of course form, something that Mini Hawk doesn't have, but is that essential, having long shot form? We have Kalpana still in the mix for this race. She was a horse that maybe was going to be trying to repeat ownership with Enable and Blue Stocking last year. Not quite lived up to expectations this season. Slightly grey area around her last time out after the performance, whether she'd even line up in an arc. We'll have to see what the weather's doing. It does look like the heavens have opened a little bit in there. And we talked about that in last year's video, the fact that some of the bigger priced and big shock winners have come on really, really slow down. The two biggest prize winners this century both won in the slowest times of this century. So all of those factors to consider. And whenever we're recording these, there is a lot of time to go before final declarations. And we've seen year after year, sometimes if the heavens open over in France, they can really open and change things significantly. Lots of other horses that have got bits of chances as well. A Strange sort of fallen by the wayside slightly this season after coming in and looking good. Some big old names in there as well. Horses like White Birch, who's always been cited to need a bit of bad ground. Big priced horse. We know as well with this race that draw comes into consideration. I say we know, I'm going to talk about that in the trends now. So I guess without further ado, let's look at those top line trends. Pin them up on the bottom of the screen so you can see them. Again, link in the description to find the full details. So in no particular order, trend 1, the horse is not older than 5, but is most likely to be aged 3 or 4. Now, the horses that I've mentioned, and there's some horses that I haven't, most are 3 and 4 year olds of the ones that have been confirmed. So maybe we're not going to get too much help from trend number 1. Trend number 2, we don't know this yet, but is drawn in the bottom half of the field. But if the horse is really well fancied, they can win from higher. Now, it does seem to be a big bias in Longchamp to be drawn in that bottom half of the field, as I've touched on. There'll be the big draw for it, and that will have an impact on what sees the market move where. However, some of the horses that have defied a big draw have been the fancied runners. So if you're fancying one towards the head of the market, yes, if they get a bad draw, their price might go up, but it doesn't mean they can't win the race. You would have preference for them being in the bottom half of the draw, but you're betting before the draw, taking a bit of a risk on prices in that front. Possibly. We could look at that in the article in a bit more depth. Trend number 3, they will go off a single figure priced SP. I talked about a couple of the biggest shocks this century coming on really bad testing ground. I've talked about a couple of horses there at big prices that could go well in attritional conditions. Typically, though, the winner of this race will go off as a single figure SP. So I want to pay big respect to Late Money. I think Blue Stocking was very well supported last year in her victory. That's a trend that I haven't got listed here about the girls. I did mention it last year. I will just quickly touch on that now when I've said Blue Stocking and her. 10 of the last 17 winners have been females. So that's a big positive, I guess, looking in there for Mini Hawk coming in here off a couple of back of filly Group 1s as well. There is details in the article about that side of things too. But in terms of the top line trends, continue with those. Trend number 4, they have a career high RPR of 120 plus, includes boys and girls, and preferably from this season. The ones towards the head of the market, Mini Hawk, Aventure, Croix de Nord, Byzantine Dream, Sozy even in the past, they've all ticked that box for having a high RPR of 120 or higher. So that helps in some extents that we've got a good class renewal and we're going to get a fair race. Doesn't help with whittling it down using that particular trend, but may do so if you're looking for ones at a bit of a bigger price. Has run at Longchamp and won there. Now, Mini Hawk is the horse that hasn't of those that I've mentioned. Wouldn't say it's completely nutty, a prerequisite the horse will need to have run there, but look, it is definitely beneficial to have had experience at Longchamp. And if you've been to Longchamp, really, you should have won there too. So of those other horses that have been mentioned, again, the big name ones, Aventure, Croix de Nord, Byzantine Dream, Sozy, they've all got course form and winning form. It's not going to help you whittle those ones down. And really, are we going to rule Mini Hawk out for the fact that she hasn't been there, given her age? No, we're not. Trend 6 has run at and won over 1 mile 4 furlong. This is pretty much essential. Again, the big names in this race will be ticking that box. Trend number 7 has 3 or more runs this season, has 2 or more wins this season, or they're unbeaten if they've had 2 or fewer runs. This is something that's going to be prevalent for lots of the horses that are in here. Croix de Nord's the horse that's had 2 runs this season, 1 win, 1 defeat. Maybe would be the one that doesn't fit in particularly the profile there. Mini Hawk's unbeaten with 4 from 4 this season. Sozy was beaten last time out. Aventure was beat last time out. Byzantine Dream was beat last time out. But it's a good looking race in terms of the class of horse in a bit of depth. And some of those horses have been going up against each other as well. So they could have clashed horns before. Maybe it will reverse when we get to this bit. But you can compile some of these trends together to help profile a winner. Trend number 8 is already a Group 1 winner, preferably with 2 or more. So regardless of age, I've talked about 3-year-olds in there for Mini Hawk. We've talked about they're not older than 5, likely to be aged 3 or 4. They need to be a multiple Group 1 winner would be my suggestion, especially this year with what looks like a particularly deep renewal. As I say, there is a link in the description for the Prix de Triomphe trends that I've done. There's some more details in there. I've talked about the top line trends there. I've thrown the bonus trend in there about the girls. I talk about lots more detail in those articles. So please, if you'd like to have a little read, it shouldn't take too long, maybe no more than 5 minutes. You can click the link in the description. I really appreciate your guys' support on these videos, as we all do at GG.CO.UK. There'll be details below if you want to have a look about joining the channel and becoming a member. You get exclusive access to videos a little bit early. You get shout outs on some of the videos. So I appreciate the people that are doing that already. We've got quite a few members and that is ramping up as we go into the jump season. There is loads of good content coming up, loads of big races, lots of big days coming up as well. Not just the start of the jump season, but racing from all over the globe. We will be bringing you trends, details and information on that, not only on the YouTube channel, but on GG.CO.UK. So check out the website, check out the YouTube channel. But if you can, subscribe to the channel. If you are already subscribed, thank you for doing so. Drop a like on the video if you like the video. Drop a comment below with who you fancy. Quite a few people put up Blue Stocking last year as a strong fancy. Good to get talking about the Arc. Best of luck, whoever you're on, and enjoy the race.